Welcome to another episode of The Warning Woods. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider giving it 5 stars and writing a review. Reviews help spread the podcast to more listeners. If you want more creepy content, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Warning Woods. I'm Miles Tritle, and this story is called The Trees. The first time I saw a face on a tree was when I was 10 years old. I was on a walk with my parents through a nearby neighborhood, and someone had nailed one of those goofy carved wood faces on the trunk of a tree in their yard. I remember thinking it was funny back then. Now, I wonder if that innocent memory planted something much darker in me. That memory could have been the seed. Get it? A tree analogy in a story about trees. Anyway, it could have been the seed that grew into what's happening to me lately. That silly face might be the logo for my brand of insanity. I mean, what a relief it would be if I were simply insane. I'm not making any sense, am I? Let's just go back to last month. That's when I decided the end had come for the old maple tree in my front yard. This spring saw it grow a few sparse leaves on the couple of healthy branches it had left, but the sickly tree was mostly dead. And don't worry, that's not just my opinion. I consulted some professionals who told me no amount of trimming or pruning would resurrect the lifeless thing. So, like I thought any good neighbor would, I hired a company to chop the tree down before it fell and squashed somebody. They were good, quick, and had the thing taken down and hauled away 2 days later. With my tree gone, I had a better view of my neighbor's yard across the street. They had a much bigger tree, an ash, that was strong and healthy. With my unobstructed view, I noticed something about their tree I never had before. In the dead center of the trunk was a knot. I had never seen one quite like it. It resembled the grimace of a bitter old man, or maybe a haggard witch. It was ugly. I found myself closing the curtains more than once because I got the sense it was watching me. I could ignore the face during the day, even though I could never quite shake the feeling that it was always watching my house with its snarling expression. The real trouble for me came at night when I was sleeping. The knot face started showing up in my dreams. Sometimes it was on a tree in the background. Sometimes it took human form. The person would walk up to me and their face would contort to match the knot's expression. They would point at me. I could feel their anger and hatred shooting into me like their finger was a needle injecting me with emotional poison. The company that removed my maple left a referral card with me. If someone gave them my card when they called to make an appointment, they would get 20% off and I'd get a $50 rebate. I had originally tossed the card into my junk drawer and forgotten about it, but after a solid week of nightmares, I fished it out and took it across the street. My neighbor was understandably confused as to why I thought he'd want the tree taken down. I'm guessing he thought I just wanted the $50. I knew it was a long shot, but I was still disappointed when he told me he wasn't interested and shut the door. I turned to leave and was stopped in my tracks when I saw the hideous face staring at me from the backside of the tree now. There's no way the tree had 2 identical knots on either side. It's just not possible. I hurried home and didn't look back. I had a new dream that night, or rather a new twist on the old one. This time I was in a bar, shooting the breeze with a couple coworkers. The place was styled like a log cabin with wood all over the walls and ceiling. The hateful face was scattered all around me. I was being watched from every angle. One of my coworkers was in the middle of a sentence when another voice came from behind me. It asked, "Would you be interested in this?" Whoever was behind me slid something across the bar and it touched my elbow. I looked down and saw the referral card I had offered my neighbor. I turned around to say no thanks. The person standing behind me had the knot face. I was petrified. The people I was with disappeared, and every board and beam with the face broke away, transforming into beings that were half tree, half man. I was surrounded by wooden creatures with the hard, grim face. The person who slipped me the card transformed into one of the beings too. Its grimace morphed into a sadistic grin as it said, "It's such a good deal. Shame to let it go to waste." Behind me, I heard a chainsaw growl as it came to life. I whipped around and woke up. I thanked God for the sunlight that outlined my curtains. It was daytime, and that made me feel safe. It was a little early for me to get ready for work, so I decided to clear my head with a short walk around the neighborhood. I made sure not to look at the tree across the street, and once I got past it, I began to calm down. The sky was blue with a tint of orange from the rising sun. Something about staring at that open sky brought me peace. I was too busy staring at the sky to look where I was going. I tripped and landed on one knee hard. My eyes watered from the pain, and once I wiped them clear, I could see what had caused my fall. A section of the sidewalk was raised about 2 inches above the rest. I had never noticed it before, but I supposed it was normal for things to shift in the ground from time to time. I wasn't going to get very far with my throbbing knee, so I turned around and went home. I continued to deal with the nightmares in the following weeks and decided just to keep my front curtains closed at all times. As my sleep became worse and worse, I started to feel truly insane, and I could never bring myself to discuss my affliction with anyone else. I mean, who would believe me anyway? The story thus far has brought us to last week. It was on Thursday that I went down to start some laundry and found an inch of water pooled in the basement. Upon further observation, I determined the bulk of the water was coming through a crack in the floor near one of the walls. I had never noticed it before, so I called a contractor friend of mine to get his opinion. He looked at the crack and noted a few other details in the basement. He told me, "Your foundation is broken." I didn't know a foundation could break, but he explained that when the ground shifted or if there was a sudden, powerful event, a foundation would crack and break, causing all sorts of issues with the house. Sometimes it's as simple as a tree root growing underneath and pushing up from below, he explained to my horror. After my friend left me with more questions than answers, I tried to go into my backyard and search for possible causes. When I opened my back door, though, I was greeted by the trees. There are about a half a dozen of them behind my house. Each one had the face. It appeared in various stages of anger and maybe grief. Every knobby wooden eye was trained right at me. I shut the door and haven't looked out there since. The crack in my basement gets a little bigger every day. Now I do know how insane all of this sounds, but I hope you'll believe me before it's too late. They're coming for me. Slowly, patiently, they grow closer every day. They're inching up from below. Their branches are stretching toward my windows. The nightmares are becoming real. I've thought about escaping, but the trees are everywhere.